Almost 2 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to live in Brazil and write music while I was here. I'm happy to say that I'm here in Brazil making music, but a lot of this required planning because if I wanted to write music, I needed a system that I could have with me. I'm Dennis from Groove Art. I make music while wandering the world. Check the links below for some original music. I'm here in João Pessoa, which is where I've settled in. But as I say, about 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to come to Brazil to live and write music, even though I had never actually been here before. So a lot of this required some planning. I did know that I wanted to come here and I was going to make it happen. I did it in stages, but I wanted to talk to you about the music system that I designed for myself for my purposes to come here. So I came here, this is actually my third extended time here. And on my first trip, I spent the whole time in Sao Paulo and I had my system there with me. But in my second trip, I moved around a lot. I was moving to different areas in the south of Brazil, in and around the Rio area. And that, I knew I was gonna do that. I had planned for that because what I was doing was looking to see where I wanted to actually live. This is my first time where I'm actually doing what I said I would do 2 years ago, which is living here and making music. So in that second trip, when I was exploring, I knew that I was gonna be packing my system up and moving to different places and putting it in a van or a big taxi and moving around. So my requirements were that I wanted to have as close as I could to my regular music environment, which is a full-size keyboard, my usual Studio One, or now called Fender Studio Pro, DAW system, my various plugins. So I spent a lot of time researching to figure out how I was going to do this. So I thought I would share to you my not so portable music studio. I have a link here for another system that I have, which I use when I'm traveling, shall we say, lightly. That packs all down into one bag. Not the case here. We are a little bit less portable, but we still are somewhat portable. So I thought I'd walk you through a little bit about that system. The biggest thing was that it needed to be reasonably portable. That meant that I have to be able to pack it down into the fewest number of bags as possible. But of course I need playability. I need my keyboard to be at keyboard playable height. I need my speakers to be so far apart, probably about 6.5 feet apart. And I need to be able to break it down. So what I have is a Arturia Keylab 88 full-size keyboard, Mark II, fully weighted keys. That's the main part of my music writing environment. I need a keyboard. But I also have guitar and bass, electric guitar, electric bass. So those help me with my music writing process. And I'm able to pack everything down into 6 carryable items. So I have my 88 key keyboard in a big carry, in a big case. I have the support stand, which we'll talk about in a second. I have my monitors, and I have my computer monitors. So my speakers and my computer monitors, and a bass and a guitar. And that's my setup. That all packs down to 6 suitcases. And I gotta lug that around. And while I was here last year exploring, I lugged those things around in a taxi or a van. I hired a van to carry me from place to place. So that's how I lived. Okay, so it wasn't easy, but I did a lot of research trying to figure out how to create. The biggest challenge was actually the support system, the physical support structure for my keyboard. Normally I work on a desk, or a table at least, but I'm not exactly going to be traveling around with a table. But I found this collapsible, or shall we say disassemblable, if I can create a new word, but I was able to find a support system that's made out of aluminum tubes, which breaks down quite easily. And that's the heart and soul of what makes this work. So it was a little bit with planning and luck that I was able to squeeze it all down into essentially the main core of the system is 4 suitcases. And I spent a lot of time with dimensions, and I spent a lot of time looking at luggage to figure out what I could fit in. But we're gonna see also that I made some pretty big modifications to the stock system. So the support system is a Jaspers keyboard stand. It's on wheels. It also comes, you can also buy these wings for it to attach monitors at the very end, which I did buy. I also bought their platform that I could place the speaker on. But what I found is when you're mounting a speaker of the weight that I'm using, it wasn't working all that well. So I came up with a new system on my own with some readily available pieces. I also cut some wood pieces and stained them to create the shelves or the platform where the speakers or the monitors are residing. But I also created some other flat spaces on the keyboard stand, which we'll see in a second, that allows me to place my gear like my MacBook or my Mac Mini and other devices, audio interface onto the system. So I have almost a desk, but I don't have a desk, if you know what I mean. Well, I think we're gonna go into the studio, or at least into my apartment, and have a look. And we'll have to leave this beautiful sunshine for another day. But let's go into my apartment and I'll show you. Okay, so let's take a quick break from the beach. Let me just show you the system from a little farther back here. So you can see my keyboard, my Atom Audio speakers. I've got a guitar here, a bass is, I need to pick that up, it's on the way. And I've got this stand here, which is on wheels. And that's kind of the bread and butter of the system. Having said that, I have just finished building a table, a music table, or I had it built for me, and it's ready to be picked up. So this system is actually going to get retired, or the support system, I should say. So it's kind of on it's done its job. We were traveling around Brazil, at least the south part of Brazil, for about a year, and this was my not so portable setup. This system packs down to about 5 suitcases, which is monitors, support, this keyboard, the computer monitors, and all the peripherals you see here. So it's not exactly portable, but it is a great, partly portable system that allows me to move around, at least in a car. I did bring it on an airplane just to get here to João Pessoa, but I don't want to do that again. Moving around in a car is not so bad, but there is a lot of suitcases to move around, so I try to limit that. At any rate, as I said in previous videos, I'm basically stationing myself here in João Pessoa for at least part-time for the next couple of years at least. So I won't be having to move this around too much. So therefore I've built a table. But for now, this is the system that I was working with. Let's start off with the heart and soul of the system. I've got my Mac Mini M4. There's 32 gig of RAM in there. It's just fine. I'm not super taxing on my machines from a music perspective. I'm mostly creating demos. I wouldn't say I'm creating full-blown productions.
We do all the recording in Vancouver. That's where all the horsepower is needed. But when I'm songwriting, I'm not paying too much. I'm not throwing layers and layers, 100 tracks or anything like that. Everything I do sound source wise, other than guitar and bass and voice, everything else is all plugins. So that helps me keep I'm not going to be running around with different pieces of hardware and so on. So I've got Arturia here. I've got various plugins that I use. So I keep it light that way. All right, so there's the Mac Mini, 32 gig of RAM. 32 gig of RAM, and a terabyte of storage. I've got everything is written to SSDs. I generally record directly to them. What that allows me to do is, because I'm moving around, it allows me to take the SSD and throw it into a laptop or into whatever machine I happen to be using, and I've got my environment. So that's why it's all outboard SSDs. I have a CalDigit TS4 you can see sitting in here, and that is a hub that allows me to connect one USB wire to the Mac Mini, and I get all sorts of ports. I've got memory card reader, different sizes of memory card readers for these videos, and it has a whole bunch of different ports on the back that allows me to connect the rest of my devices to my system. One exception though is my user interface here, my audio interface here, which is the Quantum ES4 PreSonus. It is a 4-channel. I need to actually make sure that's correct. That is correct. That's why it's called an ES4. So I've got a Quantum ES4 4-channel audio interface here. It serves my purposes. I actually like it because it lies flat on the desk, and I can plug in a bass and I can plug in a guitar and I can leave them plugged in, and I'm ready to record. So that's a good piece of gear to have. This is going to be changing as soon as I get my desk. So I'm going to be using a rack-mounted audio interface, but we'll see that when I get my desk. Going back to the Mac Mini is actually new for this setup. I was running it off a laptop, off a MacBook Pro, 32 gig of RAM again, with an M3 Pro. But I decided I wanted to put a Mac Mini here that's dedicated to this. The laptop was always coming out and going in, and I like having a desktop that just sits here. It's dedicated for this purpose. So the Mac Mini is taking over the MacBook Pro in terms of music production on this system. Audio interface, again, here's my Arturia. This is a fully weighted keyboard bed. So I like it for that reason. It has a heavy feel to it. So I'm finding myself having to press down hard on the keys. That is something I'm just getting used to, or having to get used to. I've had the keyboard for a long time, and I'd have to say that I'm still getting used to that heaviness. I have a mini grand piano in Vancouver, and that has a very light touch compared to this. So just an observation, but I make do with it because I do like the keyboard and I like the feel. Here are my T7V Atom Audio monitors, 7-inch woofer, and they're classic ribbon tweeter. But the T7Vs are perfect for my application. So again, I've got a pair of those. I've got them mounted horizontally, mostly for stability. I'm always moving around behind and so on, and if you can see, I've got these on a stand. I'll talk about that in a second. But they don't need to topple down. So I've got them mounted horizontally. I was running the T5Vs, and I found they just didn't have the bass that I wanted. These have a much punchier and fuller bass. Being a bass player, it was important to me to be able to hear the bottom end. They're not boomy, they're tight for what I want. And I don't have a sub or anything here. That would just be kind of too many things to carry around. But I'm running these and they're just fine for my purposes. Again, my purposes are all songwriting and making demos, good quality demos. I'm not mixing, I'm not mastering. I leave all that up. I leave all that to other people. So just to be able to hear my sounds and have a good sound, that's what I needed here. Okay, that's it for the electronics portion. That's kind of all rather expected, but I think the heart and soul, as I mentioned earlier, of this system is this Jasper. The heart and soul of this system is the Jasper keyboard stand, which is on wheels. So it's a 140B, I think, for black. 140 is the length. This is all on wheels, so it does move around. I don't want it moving around now. But it allows me to have my full-size keyboard on here. Now, there's a bunch of things here you're seeing that are not stock. So I have done some huge modifications to this, which allows me to have this set up. It's a kind of a desk scenario without a desk. So I do miss having a desk here that I can actually lean on. Typing on this keyboard setup, I've got my keyboard and mouse set up over here on the Arturia. So this area of the Arturia is really unique and cool. They've left it open so you can put a laptop here. In my case, I've got my mouse and my keyboard here. This is all I could fit. I couldn't fit the one with numerical on here. So, but it serves its purpose. But having said that, resting my hand here to type and listening to bad chords, it can get a little annoying every now and then. So I really do miss having a desk, but this served its purpose and it served it really well for what it is. So getting back to the custom part of it, you'll see that I have these boards here. These are just 3/8 inch thick pieces of plywood. I've stained them to look a little nicer and they're sitting on here. I'll show you another shot in a second. This is what it looks like with all the equipment taken off. They are basically desk area or flat surface to allow me to place my devices. Without that, the keyboard stand obviously just has a hole there. It's just a rack, so I needed to create some flat space area there. This Jasper did not have that in mind, so I've gone ahead and made some serious customization for that. I'm kind of an amateur woodworker, so I was able to jerry-rig this thing together, but it took a lot of planning and a lot of logistical decisions trying to figure out how to make it all work using the least amount of material that I could pack and that would do the job. So the secret here, I'll just show you underneath here. The secret here is, I'll probably need another view of this, but you can see I have a Gibraltar, I think it's called a super clap. That's from the drumming world. So you can see how I've mounted it there. That's probably a good view there. I've mounted it to this pole of the post or pole of the stand. So it's just a Gibraltar super clamp. You'll find those if you have electronic drums. You may recognize these. And if you're an electronic drum player, as I am, you'll notice this plate right here. This is another Gibraltar plate, which is usually used to mount on the bottom of your brain, of your electronic drum kit brain. So there's another view of it there. And so I've attached the Gibraltar onto the support stand, and I've mounted this plate into the Gibraltar clamp. And now I've got this flat surface here. I was able to mount my shelf to it, my 3/8-inch plywood. So that is the support system for my devices. That's what it looks like there. And again, without the equipment on here, this is what it looks like here. What the Jasper system does provide is monitor mounting solution. So this is all Jasper hardware, and they created these brackets to go onto their tubes and create a support system for the monitors, for the computer monitors. Since we're back here, here's the back of the T7Vs. Again, I've done a custom arrangement here. So I created this, I built this shelf. This is 3/4 ply, stained in the same finish. Without the speaker, it looks like this. This guy here is not part of the stand, and it's not 100% required. These wings here that you see right here, they attach to the main support. And so this part is all part of the Jasper system. This thing here is actually just sitting here. And it's meant to hold monitors. I'm not sure if it's meant to hold monitors that are this heavy. So being a little bit of a structural freak, or a geek anyway, I don't like seeing stuff like this. Having a monitor basically suspended and held here ultimately by this piece of plastic. And so I just figured I'm gonna put something underneath there to support it. And if I ever lean on it, on the speaker, which does happen, I don't trust this. So I've gone ahead and put this guy here. This is something I found at like a Home Depot type of store. They're actually just legs for tables, and they fit quite well. I can adjust the height there, which I've done. So that helps support the speaker a little bit. So now when I lean on this, it might move a little bit forward or backward and shake that way, but up and down, like it's supported. So that was my little addition there. Let's see what else. Again, so I'm on wheels. I have a little basket on the floor just to keep all the power supplies in one space instead of just sitting on the floor. I've got a sustain pedal there, which I haven't been using a lot of. Standard computer monitors, 27-inch Samsungs, nothing special there. I've got my power supplies back here. I don't have anything special for a power supply yet. These are basically fancy extension cords that I found here in Brazil. I wanted to use my Trip Light power supply, but it is only 110. It only accepts 110 volts. It does not accept 220, which is what the current is here in northeast Brazil in João Pessoa. Other parts of Brazil, the power is actually 110, so it did work when I was down in Rio, but it doesn't work here. So I had to say goodbye to that power bar, which was a bit of a conditioner, and buy something locally here until I find something better. Speed is really important to me. As you guys know, songwriting or being creative, the ideas come and they go just as fast. So it's really important for us songwriters to be able to get our ideas down quickly. So this all is kind of like a digital notepad, because when I have an idea, I need to plunk it down. So that means things need to be fast. Things need to boot up and things need to be fast. So one of the things I've done here is turning on monitors. They have switches on the back, but going to the back of each one of these once or twice a day, I'd rather not do that. So I have them coming into here and I hit this one switch and that powers both of them on. And then I have a power bar in my little box down there, which is basically acting as a traditional power bar for the rest of this equipment here. I think that's it. I've got some headphones here from Atom Audio. These are the HS2s. I don't mind the sound of those. I'm an Atom Audio fan. I've mentioned this before. This cable is really rubbery and sticky, so these are going. Again, when I'm recording, I cannot be recording and being uncomfortable when the cable is sticking to my shirt or sticking to me. So unfortunately, they're gonna go in the next revision or at some time in the future. That about does it. I think we should go back out to the beach. So again, here's the system. My Arturia Keylab 88. This is the Mark II. Just a quick thing about packing. I mentioned to you that all of this packs down to exactly 4 suitcases, and I have gotten very lucky, but I also created my own luck because I measured and prayed to make sure all of this stuff would pack the way I wanted it to. So these monitors pack into 1 suitcase in a pair. They also, before they go in the suitcase, they go into a JBL padded case, if you will, carry bag actually, that is meant for another one of their products, but I was able to get these to fit perfectly in them, if not a little bit tight. I was able to fit these into, one goes into, each speaker has its own case. Both of these speakers and their carry bags, they fit into a 28-inch suitcase. A pair of them fit into 1 suitcase. I have these speaker shelves that I made and some of these other wooden components. They will also fit in to that same bag, that same suitcase. And then I have these computer monitors, which go into their own carry bag. And they together, as a pair, will fit in the top half of a 28-inch suitcase. And the rest of this paraphernalia will also fit into there. So that's 2 suitcases, one for speakers, one for computer monitors. And then I have this full-size keyboard, that's number 3. And then I have all this support stuff, and the hardware for it goes into number 4. So that's 4 suitcases that I can travel around with. I'm not planning on taking this stuff on a plane again. So, but if I need to, I can, because I've done it once before, but it'll be very well planned. For now, if I decide to live in another location in Brazil, it's going to be in the Northeast and somewhere where I can throw this into a van, not an airplane. There you have it. Let's go back out to the beach. It's looking great out there.
I hope you enjoyed my little tour of my not so portable music system. Stay tuned for another video where I'm going to modify it again, since I don't have to be as portable as I did before. I'm Dennis from Groove Art, and I make music while wandering the world. See below for some links to some original music, and stay tuned for an upcoming album. See you next time.